welcome everyone to today's Tuesday Times Roundtable. Today's topic, it is Sustainable Livelihoods, the Bandhwari Women's Project, a wonderful project whose mission is to help women in the village of Bandhwari, India, and to achieve financial independence by creating a social enterprise. My name is Janeri Mendoza Farjan, and I am the Senior Program Coordinator here at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. With us, we have our two wonderful graduate assistants, Jetangeli and Natalia. They're going to be having microphones, so if you feel at some point throughout the presentation or towards the end you would like to ask questions, just raise your hand, and they will make sure to bring the microphone to you. A little reminder for everyone to sign in. If you didn't get a chance to do it at the front, the QR code is in front of you. This is how we gather the information to report as extra credits or for global learning medallion points or honors college. Also, a reminder today, the Global Learning Student Board is going to be having a Valentine's event. This is to honor global love. So feel free to jump by if you are available between 3 and 5 p.m. It's going to be in PC 245. All right, and also the session for today, it is actually linked to a news article at FIU. So this is the FIU College of Business magazine. You may access this link by going to go.fiu.edu/TTR0218 to also learn more about this wonderful organization. We're also honoring SDG number 5, gender equality, which is about achieving gender equality to empower all women and girls. If you would like to read more about the targets, the indicators, and also the goal for this SDG, you may go to go.fiu.edu/SDG. All right, and now it is my great honor to introduce today's panel. We have a wonderful panel that represents the Bandhwari Women's Project. Dr. David Wernick, Brianna Page, she is the Bandhwari Director, Danielle Xu, she is the Bandhwari Marketing Director, and then Brittany Zapata Montes. She is an alumni from the program. She served as the Bandhwari Director in 2023 and 2024. Welcome, everyone. And today's moderator, it is Dr. David Wernick. He is a teaching professor at FIU's Department of International Business and an award-winning case writer. His research focuses on global business strategy, innovation, and sustainable enterprise. Dr. Wernick teaches a variety of international business and management courses at the undergraduate, MBA, and executive levels at FIU College of Business. He also holds an appointment at the University Stephen J. Green School of International and Public Affairs and teaches in the Masters of Arts in Global Affairs program. Dr. Wernick works closely with FIU undergraduate business students in his capacity as faculty advisor for the College Honors in International Business program and the International Business Owners Society. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Global Business and Community. An undergraduate e-journal focused on issues and nexus of international business and society. Prior to joining FIU, Dr. Wernick worked as an analyst in the Miami-based International Security Consultancy and was Director of Communications and the Consul of the Americas in New York. Dr. Wernick received a Bachelor's in Arts in Political Science from Tulane University and his Master's in International Studies and also his Ph.D. in Business Administration from FIU. Well, let's welcome the panel for today with a big round of applause, everyone.
All right, thank you, Joneri, for that really warm welcome. It's great to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to be here. So I am a firm believer in the value of study abroad. I know that these cross-cultural programs can be life-changing. And I speak from experience, actually. I met my beautiful wife on a study abroad trip to St. Lucia some 35 years ago. And the product of that union is actually here. My lovely daughter Lulu is joining us today. So when I say that study abroad can be life-changing, I speak from experience. When done right, these trips not only enhance appreciation of foreign cultures and business practices, they impart soft skills that are really important in today's job market. For example, critical thinking and reflection, contextual understanding, perspective taking somebody else's perspective, and empathy. Okay. In recent years, I've taken students to China, to South Korea, to Vietnam, to Singapore, went to Dubai this past year for the first time, and those trips have been great. But the one that is nearest and dearest to my heart is the one to India. And that's the one I'd like to tell you about. Okay, so this is not your typical study abroad trip. It's a non-credit, student-led service learning initiative. Okay, we call it the Bandhwari Women's Project, and the aim is to empower a group of poor women in a village near New Delhi, empower them and give them economic opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have. Okay, so it's a partnership between our International Business Honor Society and the Incentive Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that's based in India. So we plan for the trips months in advance, really a year in advance, right? Figuring out what to produce on our visit to India, what styles, what colors, what fabrics, the quantities. Then when we arrive, we provide the women with the designs and the materials, and they fire up their sewing machines. Okay, by the end of the week, we've got an inventory of fashion items, purses, tote bags, yoga sacks to take back to Miami. The students sell these products on campus and at the odd flea market or craft market. We've got some samples up front here. Please feel free to take a look. And most of the proceeds are sent back to India in the form of donations. Okay. We also volunteer at a local primary school over in India. We teach English and math, and we engage the children in song and dance and play. In addition to these activities, we do high-impact side trips. We visit a shelter for orphans and street kids. Living on the streets of New Delhi is not a happy scenario. We sometimes visit a home for children with HIV. Okay, we go to a sanctuary for elephants that have been rescued from abusive situations. Okay, we sometimes stay at the Lemon Tree Hotel, which is known for hiring large numbers of disabled workers, people that are hearing impaired or visually impaired or missing limbs and so forth. And we visit a restaurant that is run and staffed by survivors of acid attacks, okay, which is just the most horrific crime you can imagine. And this, I was telling John already before, it's such an interesting initiative because people who have been victimized in this way, there's a tremendous stigma attached to it. In a place like India where there's such an emphasis placed on personal appearance, these women don't want to leave their home, okay? And so they need medical attention, multiple reconstructive surgeries, they need counseling, but they also need a job. And that's what this organization is doing. They've created a series of cafes that are staffed and run by the survivors of the acid attacks. And it's just, so inspirational to actually meet these women and hear their stories and how they are so courageous and, trying to rebuild their lives, right? So how do I know that this experience, this trip to India is so impactful? Because my students tell me. And they use phrases like life-changing, okay? And they post stories to their social media accounts, and they make videos. It looks like a professional video, right? It was made by a student who actually brought a drone to India to do some of those shots. It's incredible. Okay, so so how did all of this start? Okay, about a decade ago, my department chair asked me to serve as faculty advisor for the International Business Honor Society. We call it IBHS. Okay, it's an organization for students that are interested in international business and global affairs. And we bring in guest speakers, and we have professional development workshops and community service projects, cleaning up the Everglades and that sort of thing. And also, there's an annual service trip to a developing country. So in the past, the group had gone to, one year they went to Costa Rica, another year they went to Nicaragua. In Costa Rica, they worked with a small boutique hotel helping to redesign their website. In Nicaragua, I believe they spent a week working on a coffee farm. You know, good, worthwhile projects, but I had a feeling that we could do something bigger and bolder. So the first thing that I did is I assembled the student leaders around the table for a little brainstorming session. And I said, you know, this is what you guys have been doing in the past. You know, we can repeat it or do something different. What do you want to do? And they're like, oh, yeah, we want to do something bigger and bolder. So somebody suggested India. And I said, well, that's certainly bigger and bolder. I had contacts in India from a trip that I took in 2013. It was a faculty trip. And the aim was to learn about the Indian economy and Indian society. And most of the meetings during that trip took place in fancy offices and conference rooms with CEOs and government officials. But one day was reserved for something different. And that was a trip to a village to learn about the challenges faced by the urban poor in India. So as our bus pulled down the dusty road to Bandhwari village, dodging cows and chickens and stray dogs, a building appeared on the horizon. I must confess, I thought it was a prison. Okay, it had bars on the windows, but it wasn't a prison, it was a primary school. Okay, and inside there were children lots of them running around with no apparent supervision. There were no teachers that I could see, no desks, no chairs. It was kind of chaotic. Okay, the kids themselves had soiled uniforms, and their hair was all disheveled, but they had these big, bright eyes, right, and these big smiles, and you could just see there was so much potential there, right? Mr. Selfie, they all shouted. They all wanted to take a selfie with me. I was really moved by that visit. After all, I had kids the same age, and under different circumstances, those kids could be mine. In any case, our nonprofit partner in India had adopted this village and was providing basic health care. They had a doctor come in once a week, and they had created a women's center, although that's too grand for what it actually was. It was kind of a makeshift garage that they had set up so that the women of the village could, meet up and socialize, a couple times a week. So my idea was to work with these women to create handicrafts for sale in the United States and then send back the money to India. Everybody loved that idea. The next question was how to pay for the trip. So we got some seed money from the College of Business and a couple of corporate sponsorships, and the students fundraised for the rest. Next question was what to produce. So the village owned a couple of antique sewing machines, the crank style. So somebody suggested purses, another person suggested shawls. I suggested finger puppets, which I thought was a great idea. Nobody liked that idea. That one got shot down. The ultimate decision was a Moroccan-style poof, sort of like on that slide there. So why a poof? Well, it was inexpensive to make, compact and easy to transport if it wasn't stuffed, and it had a high resale value, so we decided to make poofs on that first trip. So we arrived in India armed with our designs. We purchased fabrics and buttons and zippers at the local market. And then we sat on the floor of the center with the women tracing and cutting and stitching. Okay. Then we sealed the poofs and voila, we had our finished product. Okay. By the end of the week, we had 24 of these items to take home to sell to family and friends. But more important, we had the genesis of what we thought could be a successful social enterprise. Okay. We went back the next year with a larger group, and we produced some fashionable tote bags. And the next year we went and we made some purses and yoga bags with a popular Buddha fabric. We've got some samples of that up front. And the program just continued to grow and expand. It was wonderful to see. And then COVID hit. Okay, although travel was shut down, my students didn't miss a beat. They placed an order for cotton face masks and sold them on campus once classes resumed, raising nearly $5,000. Okay, and when the Delta variant of COVID hit India really hard, I don't know if you all remember that. It was quite tragic. My students organized a GoFundMe campaign and a benefit dinner. 50 alumni of the program showed up at $50 a head, including some of those students who had gone on the very first trip in 2016. So we took over a restaurant, we hung a screen on the wall, and we did a slideshow. We passed around the microphone and students gave testimonials. I was the master of ceremonies, and I'd like to share with you a few things that I said that night. Okay, I said, over the past 5 years, you guys have poured your hearts into this project. You've organized fundraisers. in sales competitions, you've developed new products, you've sourced fabrics and buttons and zippers, you've attended entrepreneurial workshops, you've developed financial plans and marketing strategies, you've made promotional videos, and so much more. In the process, you've made life better for some very poor women and given them new opportunities. That's something to be celebrated. But the magic of international service is not just that it changes the lives of others. It changes you. You become aware of the wider world around you and your place within it. You become more patient, more humble, more grateful. You begin to appreciate little things that you once took for granted, like clean air and drinking water and electricity and my personal favorite, hot showers. Okay? You begin to see the beauty in simple things like friendship and camaraderie. And you begin to have a new perspective on what truly matters in life and what is just the details. Okay? In any case, I'd like to give you an update. That's kind of the origins of this project. I'd like to give you an update from the last couple of years. Each year we've taken about a dozen students, a mix of undergrad, mostly undergrad, a few graduate students, produced a range of new products, including laptop covers. We've got some samples of those, scrunchies, tote bags. Most of these items made from repurposed saris. Okay, so sari fabric that, had some was getting worn, had some a hole, some imperfection that was going to be tossed in a landfill. So there's a guy who collects them, cleans them, and we purchase the fabrics from him, and then we turn them into these fashion accessories. So the items, the materials get a second life. Okay, we also we poured concrete in the local primary school for a volleyball net. And we also drilled holes in the brick wall to install a basketball hoop. And the kids were so excited. I got a little video clip. I think we might have found the next Steph Curry in India.
Hey!
Okay, so just to sum up, it's an amazing project that is teaching valuable life skills and having a big impact, both on the women that we're working with in Bandhwari village and also my students. So at this point, I think I'm going to stop talking, actually, and turn it over to the three student leaders who have been involved in this project for the last few years, and have them share their experiences on what it's been like to be involved in this project and to travel to India and to meet with the women, challenges and opportunities for future growth. So, Brianna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Page. I'm a senior here, and I've been the Bandhwari director since around last April. And so far, it's been an amazing experience. I went to India last year on our last trip, and it was life-changing. At the time, I wasn't director, but it inspired me to take on the role and to have more of a hands-on impact on the project. My experience in India was amazing, to see the women and to see the children and how we were actually making an impact on their lives. It was amazing. Like, I couldn't have even imagined what it would be like, but then being there and seeing it firsthand, it really changed my view on things, and I knew I wanted to play a more hands-on role. So now I am the director. It's been amazing having that experience and being able to lead all these people and help them have better livelihoods. We recently just had a fashion show, which we organized in November. We kind of transitioned more from accessories that you see there. Now we're producing more clothing items. So we're currently producing like skirts, pants, shirts, which we have just found is a little bit more popular among the college audience. But yeah, at our fashion show, we had around 200 people, raised a couple $1,000s, and it was just an amazing celebration of how far we've come and where we're going. We leave to India again on Friday, or technically Thursday night. So I've been planning that trip too, and we're really excited to go back and to continue seeing how we can expand and help the women.
All right, my name is Danielle Shu. I'm the current Bandhwari marketing director. I was also elected in about April. That's when we hold our elections as like an organization. I also went on the trip this past year. I went into it sort of impulsively. I hadn't been planning on going up until like a couple of months before we left. I also would say that I can be a cynical person in some ways, and so I went into the trip sort of unsure whether or not the impact was as much as everyone said it is, just because that's sort of in my nature. But I really did feel the impact that the women had. You could sort of just see, like, in the way that they interacted with us, that it really did have a huge impact on their lives and on their children's lives and on the education that they were able to, like, provide for their children that they wouldn't have had if they hadn't had this extra income. So I ended up getting involved as the Bandhwari marketing director after the fact, and it's also just had a personal impact for me because I've gotten to be able to build, like, a new website and have gotten a lot of mentorship as well. So it's been wonderful knowing that I can learn skills while also bringing an impact to other people.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany. I was the former director starting April 2023 until April 2024, I believe. And I joined IBHS fall 2022, which is my first semester here at FIU. And since then, I've gone to the trip 2 times, and Thursday will be 3 times. So I'm very, very excited. And I keep returning for a reason. When I started here at FIU as a first-generation student, I really wanted to explore every opportunity possible, and I knew I wanted to focus in the international aspects. That's why I'm an international business student, and so I found IBHS, and thankfully I joined. And when I joined, I realized they do a trip to India, and I was so excited, and I don't know how I was going to fund it, but I was going to go, and it turned out to be really life-changing. That's why I've been 3 times now. And I was really excited to go, and getting there was like the first time I actually traveled for like education one, and also just like outside of Latin America. Like I've always just go to Nicaragua to visit my family. It was my first real traveling experience, and my first study abroad here at FIU. And since then I've done more study abroads, but this India one was a special one. And it's the first time I realized I wanted to do more with my career that was international, with international focus. So going to India and seeing how things were run over there and the culture and how they greeted us with open arms and how we learned so much and in depth about the culture, not in just a tourist way, but actually being able to go to one of the women's home where they cooked for us and we ate their like food, and that was just so inspirational to me. And this was just kind of the whole process of actually making the bags and the skirts. Like the first day we got to India, in the first trip I went to, we went to this home where it was like a big pile of just fabrics of the saris, recycled sari material, and we're just kind of having fun and searching and throwing around the fabrics and seeing which one would be the best to create these bags and the skirts and whatnot. And it was just so fun to see the process, and then actually going to the village and going to the school and seeing how the kids are, seeing how excited they are to see us, and seeing what impact we could actually make in the village and the impact we actually do in the village was an incredible experience, and that's why I'm going back again.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. I just wanted to ask if there are any students who wanted to join, if you could share more about the travel itself, like how long is the trip, how do you plan it? Is it like scheduled out, like, okay, this day we're doing this day we're doing this, that's where we're going? Or do you have free time? You mentioned you ate at the local woman's house. Like, how does it look like on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so we start planning our trip usually around the fall semester, so any students who are in IBHS, International Business Honor Society, will hear about the trip and usually be given like a link to sign an interest form if they want to go, and they'll be contacted once we start getting a final head count. In terms of the actual trip, it is based on an itinerary, so we have a tour company that we've been working with for many years in India who helps us plan the whole trip. We usually spend the first few days in the village. Everything's planned out, but we do leave room for spontaneity at the same time. So usually the first 4 days will be in Delhi, which is near where the Bandhwari village is, and we'll spend the mornings in the village with the women. And then in the afternoon we'll do some sort of activity, we'll visit some local restaurants, maybe eat at a home, like Brittany said, At night, maybe we'll go visit something more tourist related. And then once we spend about 4 days in the village, we'll usually take a bus ride. We switch hotels, and we'll go to Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is. We go to Jaipur, which is like the Pink City. This year, we're actually spending 2 nights in a national park to see like a tiger reserve. So we'll spend 2 days in these like buses, and they're gonna take us around the tiger reserve to see the animals in the different national parks. So we're
hoping that all the students come back from that visit.
Yeah. But yeah, we're always looking to make the trip different, especially since we have a lot of returners. Like, it's my 2nd time, it's Brittany's 3rd time. So we always want to incorporate some new things, but we also always keep those core elements of visiting the school, visiting the women. And then based off of that, a lot of students like to do their own research. I have one girl who's been texting me every day with ideas that she's found. She's been on the trip already, and she's coming up with new ideas of new things we can do. So we always want to make it different, but at the same time maintain that core element of service in it.
Thank you. Just one more thing, sorry. And in terms of funding, you mentioned I know some students would be interested if, like, do you get some funding from the school on this trip, or how much of it do you have to pay your own?
Yeah, so it varies from year to year. The past few years, we've gotten scholarships from the College of Business, and also we have a Center for International Business and Educational Research, which has also provided scholarships. So it's always a mix. Some money comes in through scholarships. Brianna received a scholarship from a corporate sponsor this year, WTDC, which is a Miami-based logistics company that's been a real supporter and a partner of this project since the very beginning. So every year they fund a trip for one student, and this year they decided to do 2. So that was really cool, and we're working on getting some other corporate sponsors on board as we grow the program, because we want to make sure that it's sustainable. So we want to have various sort of pots of money that we can dip into, and of course the students do some fundraising as well. So various ways.
Well, thank you so much for this presentation. I mean, I even cry. I love it. Thank you. Thank you that you're doing this. My question is, I love yoga. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of, energy things and meditation. And I have some contacts in Tulum, in in many places in the world. And I was wondering if you're open to do
Yes.
That will be amazing. I will help. I'll give you the contact, and then if they can sell your products to help them, that will be amazing.
Yeah. No, we would love that, because we want to. We're trying to figure out how we do scale this to take it to the next level, so we can have an even bigger impact. So.
I'd like to come one day to India.
Yes.
Is it only for students or staff too?
Yeah, we haven't taken staff before, but we've taken some alumni of FIU. So yeah, in fact, we're planning an alumni trip for next year with some of those students who went on the very first trip, because it's interesting. Well, not everybody, but a lot of the students that have been through this program, it's had such a big impact that they want to stay connected. So we have get-togethers every so often, and they're like, oh, we want to go back to India, we want to go back. So we're thinking of, next year will be the 10-year anniversary, so doing a trip. And it just so happens that the week that we're looking at is the week of the Colors Festival. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where it took me about 2 weeks to get the paint out of my hair from the last time we went. Oh, it was so much fun. So yeah, absolutely. So let's be in touch. Yeah. Other questions?
Hello. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing about Bandhwari. I used to be part of IBHS. I haven't been able to go. I've been very busy, but it's okay. And I just wanted to share that I saw how my fellow IBHS members were so impacted by this, and I haven't been able to go on the trip, but it definitely made a difference on how they came back, just full of energy, full of ready to take on new challenges, and just wanting to give back. So it's really amazing that you guys were able to share this with everybody here. But I did have a question about, is it possible in a way to make the women in Bandhwari more involved here on campus in a way so that they could also share their story? Because I think that would be very interesting for people to see, like, what is it like in India? Because it's not just, you know, this beautiful thing that is usually painted, because you can see that they do have several, it's not very beautiful always, and their stories, I think, as you mentioned, Dr. Wernick, they do have an impact on everybody else. So is there a way that we could connect with the women and somehow make them part of the campus?
So we've had some conversations about this in the past, you know, filming short videos with women, you know, photographs with, you know, a bit of a story, because that is really important to, you know, people that care about these types of products, the story about how it was made and who made it. So it's an interesting, you know, it's an interesting idea. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I can talk about that.
Yeah.
So the Incentive Foundation in India, they recently had a couple new hires. So like their organization is expanding, which has made it a lot easier to grow like interactive activities like that. So I'm currently working their main point of contact for me. Her name is Shreya. She does a lot of the marketing logistics of the Incentive Foundation, and something that she recently did, which I asked her to do, is to create a video of what happens in the village, like the women speaking, the women sharing how this project has impacted them. It was mainly for a fashion show event, but now it's become a great tool just to kind of show like the impact of the project on the women. So that's something we worked on and try to help bridge that gap between, you know, Miami and India. Another thing we're trying to do is on all of our price tags, there's a QR code, and right now it currently goes to like our Instagram, our website, our LinkedIn, things like that. But we're trying to add a feature where it links to a video of the woman who made the product saying thank you. So that's something we're in the works now. We're still working on getting all of like the content and the filming, but that's an idea we had. And then that video would like change every month or something like that to a new woman saying thank you. So you get to, as you continue scanning the code every month, it's like a new woman saying thank you, and you get to hear a little bit about their story and how them making that product has influenced, you know, their life in the future.
I know also, because you were mentioning something that this is student-based, I know that you guys also visit a university, I think, or like a student group in India. Are they involved also in Bandhwari, or are they just involved with your group, basically?
Yeah, so that's a great point. We're working with Symbiosis University in Noida, and we've been, I think this will be the third year that we have partnered with them. And it's funny, the first year that it was suggested to me by our partner in India, they said, you know, there's this university that we've connected with, and they'd really, you know, like to meet with you. And not only that, they would like to host your group at the university. And I was like, wow, our schedule is so packed, and we're running around, and we're on the bus, and how far is it? And he's like, well, it's probably an hour and a half on the bus. I'm like, I don't think so. He's like, you sure? Because, you know, I think it could be a real, you know, nice addition to your program. I was like, all right, let's do it. And I was, you know, so grateful for that suggestion, because it's been tremendous. You know, they put on this, we're not going to be able to visit their campus this year, but they're coming to the village to work with us. But they put on this tremendous show with, you know, Bollywood dancing and, you know, all kinds of interesting activities, and it's a great opportunity for our students to meet theirs, and I mean, you guys can speak to that, right?
So with the university, Symbiosis International University, their goal is really to grow Bandhwari in India, right? Because I think it's like very typical to see those fabrics and things like those tote bags in India, but they want to make it a unique aspect, and like, why should people buy it? Where can we sell it? That's kind of what they're doing in India. To grow the market there, and then we kind of do the U.S. market, or the Miami, and it's actually such a great collaboration. I think the first time we went, we were like, oh, like we have to go to the university, like they're just gonna show us something, like okay, But then when we actually met the students, we're so alike. Like they're just like 20-year-old students. We were also the same, and we had such a good opportunity to kind of interchange like our cultures even, because like we would speak Spanglish and they would speak like English, and it was just really really funny, like the interchange. And then we actually got to like dance with them because they're like, let's do something, let's interchange something, and then we did like the Macarena and like they did like their dances, and it was really really fun. And also last year I believe we kind of got all around together in the Women's Center, and we were kind of discussing ideas how to grow in India and how to grow in Miami. And so that's kind of the discussions we were having, and also product, like how do we get the logistics of it, like how do we get the product from point A to point B, from India to Miami. So it was kind of like that, and just collaborating and learning putting our business skills to use basically.
I just want to be clear, I did not do the Macarena. Other questions? Yeah.
Yes, so you mentioned a little bit about how you get the product from India to Miami. Can you expand a little bit on that, on how that process works?
Sure, yeah, I can expand on that. So there's two different ways we can get the products over. So we always try to take a product shipment over when we go visit just to avoid shipping costs. So I just put in a product order a few weeks ago that includes some pants, some skirts, and then a couple bags that they'll have done before we leave India and we'll take back with us in our suitcases. When we have a bigger product order in like the middle of the year, like when we're not going to India, we have to ship it over, which it does add extra shipping costs. But for example, like for an event like the fashion show, when we needed a huge product shipment, it was a lot more convenient just because we were able to have a custom-made order brought to us. Shipping costs were kind of distributed because it was such a big order that like per unit it really didn't matter. So that always provides us with an option when we want to do something like more than once a year.
Hi. Thank you very much for this presentation. Actually, I wanted to ask two questions. So the first one is, you talked earlier about your plans for the future, that you hope to expand the project. In what ways are you looking to expand the project? And then the other question that I have is related to training. When you partner with universities, do they help with training the women? And how does the training happen in your organization, if there's any?
Yeah, so we are looking for ways to expand the project, to scale it. We've had some conversations about incorporating either as a for-profit business, but more likely as a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. And that would enable us to sell inventory over the web and to get more corporate donations. And so that's really the most likely avenue that we're going to take to expand. And I think it opens up all kinds of new horizons for us. Did you want to?
Yeah, I can expand. So, like you said, we're trying to incorporate as a 501c3. That's been one of our main expansion projects right now. Danielle actually made us a website, so it's almost fully functional as an e-commerce website. As we were about to launch it, if you want to talk about that a little, the issue that we ran into.
So basically, obviously, as we mentioned, we're trying to become a 501c3, and we're not currently. So one of the issues I encountered was that I built an entire website, which you can look at currently. It's bandhwari.org. But once you try and sell the products, you need to be able to get the money out of the website, and you need a employer number or a nonprofit number of some sort within America to be able to do that. And all of our legal number, like the Nonprofit Incentive Foundation is a nonprofit in India, but it's not a nonprofit here. And so that was one of the issues we encountered in expanding our sales channels. So we definitely do want to expand our sales channels. Like, I would like to be able to sell not just in person, essentially. But that's something that we need to get a few steps behind the scenes in order for that to happen. But ideally I would like to also do social media selling, selling through Instagram, selling through Pinterest. A lot of the different sales channels would be nice online.
Yeah. So one of the challenges is that the student leaders are so involved and so committed, but they graduate and they move on, right? So it needs kind of a constant presence, somebody who can oversee the project, right? And I have a little bit too much on my plate to also take that on. So we're looking to find somebody else who could kind of manage it, the day in, day out aspects of the project, because we do want to take it. It's a wonderful, fantastic student project, but we think it's got bigger potential to change more lives and have an even bigger impact. So that's what we're looking at.
So our training, it more happens not through the SIU students, but through the Incentive Foundation. We just recently, before the fashion show happened, asked for kind of a report of what they needed most back over there, so that when we received corporate sponsorships or when we raised money, we would know where that money is going to, and we can also report that back to donors, which all went into our corporate sponsorship program that we just released. We made a corporate sponsorship package that we released earlier this year. That's been super great. But one thing that they were asking for were laptops. They're training laptops. So it's pretty much, they don't have the infrastructure at this point to do like super in-depth training. So they do have a trainer that comes periodically to help them learn how to make new products, teach them certain skills. But they are looking to really expand that training to make the products more high quality. And one way they're doing that is by ordering new sewing machines, new laptops. So that's all included in our sponsorship package, which we've been getting donors for to help them really increase that.
I have one more question. So about the communication, you mentioned you have like a point of contact. Like how often do you talk to these women, or how do you keep in touch when you're not there, when you're not on the trip? How do you communicate with them?
Yeah, so me and Danielle, we have like monthly meetings scheduled with Shreya, who's our point of contact over there. That's just like a regularly scheduled checkup. We usually, I'm in contact with them. I talk to Shreya probably like 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what's going on, especially in times of like the fashion show when we were doing a lot of things. We were talking almost every day just to make sure everything was running smoothly. But we have constant contact through WhatsApp. When it's necessary, we meet through Google Meet. They have all of those forms of technology, so it's really easy to stay in touch and keep communicating. Thinking about your question about the partnership with the university over in India. So one of the nice aspects of that is that we are partnering on research now. So I mentioned this organization that's working with the survivors of acid attacks. So not only did we visit the restaurant or the cafe, 2 cafes actually, they've got 5 in India. We went to the one in Agra and the one in Noida. We are working together doing research, and we wrote a case study about this organization. It's called Shiro's Hangouts. Shiro's is a combination of the word she and hero, and the women are heroes. So we entered the focus of the case study is, it provides the backstory. It talks about, what an acid attack is. Are you all familiar with that? It's a very horrific crime, and basically the way it works is that if a man is rejected by a woman, if he wants to date her or marry her, in some cases he will retaliate by buying acid, which is very inexpensive and very accessible in India, the sulfuric acid, and actually throwing it at her, ambushing the woman and throwing it at her, and it burns and disfigures her face beyond recognition sometimes. And no matter how many surgeries, reconstructive surgeries they have, it's just not the same. So, so we wrote this case study. It was a partnership between myself, 2 professors at this university in India, and another professor at a university in Ireland, and actually a Ph.D. student here at FIU too. And we entered the study in a competition, a global case writing competition, and it won second place this year. And it was a $5,000 award that we decided we're going to give to the organization. So we did that, and because we figured everybody can use some money, but the amount of good that it could do just outweighed any sort of personal benefit it might have to any of us. So we were very, very excited to be able to do that. Anyways, and I'm happy to share that case study if anybody's interested in reading.
Sorry, I have too many questions. Uh, so you mentioned about the acid attacks. Is that like, is there a punishment for men who do this? Like, are they going to jail, or is it just like?
Yeah. So it is a crime, but unfortunately, very few people actually go to jail. The system is set up so that they don't rigorously prosecute these crimes, and some of the women just don't want to go through the process, which can be very humiliating, and and it's expensive to get the attorneys to go through the court system. So it's a very small number of the perpetrators that actually are sent to jail, sadly. It's India's an amazing place. There's so much that is beautiful about the country. I'm just amazed and inspired every time I go. But there's some real dark stuff too, and this unfortunately is one thing that's very dark. But it's also inspirational to see these women, being courageous and taking steps to rebuild their lives in the aftermath of something like that.
Can I jump in? So, I think the Shiros was probably one of my favorite activities that we did last year during our trip, because we actually got to go to the cafe and kind of hear the women's story. And a lot of them, it was like their cousin wanted to marry them, and well, they conspired against them and threw acid at their face. And there was one case where I think it was the cousin one, and at the end she was like, but I'm getting married next year. Yeah. I remember that. And then we actually saw the photos a few months later, and she got married and she was happy with her husband. And so things like that are really inspirational, getting to see how they were before, getting to hear about how they were before, right? And the trauma they went through, and then finding Shiros, getting those healing processes, and Shiros helping them medically, also emotionally and financially, because they were hired at the cafe, and then kind of transforming their lives into something positive. And you can see how everyone working there was just so happy for her, was so happy for how she surpassed that experience. And also another thing that was, I think, kind of impactful for me at least, when we were in Agra, in the cafe in Agra, I remember opening the menu and I was like, what's the prices of all of this food? Because there's no pricing in the menu. And then they told us, actually, it's a donation. So, whatever you order, it's pay what you will. It's a donation. And so I remember all the students were like, okay, let's convert the money. How much is it? We should pay good. We need to make a good donation. And so I remember Raji, one of the coordinators in India, she was passing around. I was like, okay guys, come on, the money, and make sure it's good. It's a donation. Let's help these women. And we were all like, yeah. And we just kept stacking on the money to pay for food. And I thought that was also really inspirational.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So that's one of the issues that comes up in the case study. In their Agra restaurant, they have a pay-as-you-wish, policy. So if you go in and you get a sandwich and a drink, or some chai tea, and you decide not to pay anything, you can do that. But most people who visit are tourists, and they are moved by the experience, and they leave something that is much greater than what you would pay for the sandwich and a drink, right? So they have that model in Agra, but in some of their other cafes that cater to a more local clientele, they do have a fixed price menu. So it's an interesting idea that I had never come across, pay as you wish at a restaurant or a cafe.
Is it a way to show how generous are these tourists? How generous are they? Get a taste of are they generous, or are they just gonna leave? It's is it more a test to see if you're willing to give, not a matter of putting a price, because people could just buy something but not be generous. It's giving whatever you want.
I don't know. I think part of the reason, at least initially, they set it up is that they didn't want to put pressure on the women who were serving the food in case they got something wrong with the order. And then I think they found out that, people who are coming in are, leaving, $20, $40, sometimes $100 for, a $2 meal. So like, oh yeah, let's just keep this model. This makes much more sense.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that in the restaurant, there's also like things you can buy from the women, and I believe those do have price tags because like the women make it, and so I bought a few things from there, but also I don't think it's like you should pay, more like testing, like will you pay? It's more of like I know this was impactful, and let's help these women, because they also like put a video up for us before we ate. And it was like a harsh truth. Like it wasn't sugar coated. It was like this is what happens. This is what it looks like. This is how you could help the women. And it wasn't sugar coated. So like that really impacted us. And also just goodwill. Like we just want to help. That's why we're on the trip.
Yeah, I had a question. So for like students, I know you guys said the Business Honor Society and I think a WP something called scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Like for students who's not in like Business Honor Society or who doesn't have the scholarship as that young lady, is there like a list for other sponsorship you could get or something, like besides, like, because I would think you'd have to pay like your way with the selling of the handbags, right? Or am I wrong?
So the students that go on the trip are members of this group, the International Business Honor Society, but you don't have to be a business student to be part of it. Anybody who wants to get involved can, join the meetings and participate. And it's typically the students that are most active in the organization over the course of a year that do go on the trip. And do get the scholarships to go. Now, but not everybody gets a scholarship. Some students this year are basically self-funding their trip. So I'm not sure. Am I answering your question or not really?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking, because I was saying that like say you're like a different type of major, you're not in the I would say like the business pathway.
Yeah.
But you were participating. So you basically you'd have to pretty much get the sales of the handbags for the Sorry handbags, right?
That's really separate. So for the trip, we take a group of students that have been active in terms of the organization and planning and so forth, and ideas for selling the product too. But we have meetings once a week.
Yeah.
Right?
I could talk a little more. So IBHS, the club, is open to anyone. You don't have to be a business major, and I believe anybody can get lessons and gain experience out of it. In terms of funding the trip, so the sales that we make based off of the clothing doesn't necessarily go to funding our students, just because the whole business model is that what the women make, they get those proceeds back. So our price structure right now, I have it broken down in our sponsorship package for transparency reasons, but the way it works is 42% of the cost that we sell it for covers materials, like the cost it took to buy the sari, the threads, the sewing machines, everything like that. 42% goes directly to the women, and then 16% covers operational costs that we have here in Miami. So, for example, shipping, the cost it takes to be at the markets where we sell, things like that. So it is a nonprofit structure, which is why we don't fund students with that money. But aside from that, we have our corporate sponsorship package, which does offer the opportunity for either companies or for individuals who just like the cause to sponsor a student. And that's gained some traction. We're working on getting it a little more expansive, but right now some companies and some individuals have shown interest in sending a student because they see the benefits that this trip has on other students. So that's one avenue we've gone. I know one student funded herself through GoFundMe, just talking about it and asking people for donations. Another student found her own corporate sponsor. She reached out to me saying that she found it and she was able to get funding that way. So there's a lot of different opportunities. I've also organized a few fundraisers that we've used to kind of distribute the cost. But there's definitely ways, if you're interested, I wouldn't let cost deter you, because it's a great experience and there's people who are willing to send you out and willing to help you if you find the right organizations and people who are interested in the cause, and we also help you find that. So.
I know it's already 1:30, but I did wanted to ask one last but important question. How do we contribute by buying or any of the products that you offer?
Yeah, well, these here are just samples, but if they want to buy products, how do they do it?
Yeah, so we have some inventory left over from our last product order. We're also bringing more inventory when we come back. So, I can stay in touch in terms of maybe bringing that over so you guys can see. I'll also send you our sponsorship package in case anyone's interested. It has opportunities for all types of people, whether they're donating $1, whether you're donating $10. It's opportunities for everyone to get involved. And it just has more ways to, get in contact with us and stay active and seeing how the project goes forward. Every package comes with some sort of benefit to you. So we have a newsletter that we would subscribe you to. You get to see where your money goes. You'll get our detailed report of what your donation helped cause. So I can definitely send that over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Let's give them a round of applause. It was an honor to have you all here today and to really learn about the amazing work that you do with these women. We definitely hope that any of the students that participated today kind of join the project and continue supporting. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you for having us.
And TTR continue in 2 weeks. Remember, next week is going to be a spring break, so we're going to take a break for next week. But then we're coming back on March 4th for another conversation on feminism. And this one, it is with the Department of Women's Center. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.